the notion of the pigmentocracy, which is something that I actually credit first and foremost to my Uncle Johnny, right? Because he was the one who was responsible for first introducing that to me when I was a teenager, saying we live in a pigmentocracy, we don't live in a democracy. And that pigmentocracy means that the closer you are to being European in appearance, the more valuable and the more empowered you are in the larger society. Now, why is that? It's because Europeans, for the last 300-400 years, have been the most dominant force on the planet, arguably, right? Why is that? Because essentially, the decline of African power, Moorish power, results in the ascension of European power in the world. And just as I've said before, you can find periods, as David McRitchie in Ancient and Modern Britons, his book about, actually he was Scottish, but he talks about Britain as a whole. He points out there was a time in British history where the Brits would try to darken their skin so as to better pass for Moors. Why is that a shock? It shouldn't be if you're talking about a period in history when the Moors are in positions of power. So those who have the most power tend to look the most attractive and are seen as having greater value because we've commoditized phenotype. If you know what a commodity is, right? Something that can be bought and sold or, purchased. We've commoditized, and it holds a certain value. We've commoditized what it is to be human. So the commodity of looking more like an Englishman becomes more valuable than looking like somebody from the Senegal region or somebody from China at that period in time. Right? If, as people say that, that we're moving into the period where China is about to dominate the globe, I dare say with that certainly will come a greater attractiveness of the Chinese phenotypically and culturally. So then the pigmentocracy will be replaced by something different, right? But pigmentocracy literally meaning the lighter you were in complexion, the less melanated you were or are, the better, because you're closer to the Anglo phenotype, something that I refer to in my book as the Brahmanizing, and Brahmanizing after the Hindu tradition of, with the caste system. The Brahmins are at the highest level of the Indian caste system, and at the bottom are the so-called untouchables or the Sudra. So you have being English, being at the highest levels of value, because the English are the ones that will become the superior, the British, the superior force in the world when you get into the 18th and 19th centuries. And then the United States kind of replaces that, but the U.S., even though we're a nation of nationalities, is still a son of Britain to a large extent. And as a result, that means that we're going to have the same values. And then you add to it the legacy of the Asiento and the enslavement system, where Africans then are losing our value because we are the low men and women, right, in the system. We're at the bottom of the caste system. And it's so ironic because, even to this day, right, you'll have people will tell you very often they'll embrace being Native American, but they will not embrace recognizing their African ancestry, right? If somebody is saying that they're mixed. I'm talking about someone who claims that they are quote unquote white or European, because I used to conduct this experiment in my classes where first day in history classes, I'd ask everybody, and the majority of my students were European American students, and I'd say, all right, everybody here, if you have Native American ancestry, raise your hand. And usually about a third or maybe a fourth, especially within the southern United States, would raise the hand and say they had Native American. And I would say, you just said that you're not white. If white means pure European ancestry. And then they were like, oh, wow, that's right? So if white is synonymous with European, right? Because that's the presumption. If white is synonymous with European, once you say you have traceable, acknowledgeable Native American ancestry, you're saying you are mixed. And yet in your mind, and in the minds of a lot of people around you, they see you as white, regardless of your hue. You could be a swarthy European or quote unquote white. But yet all of a sudden I just turn your world upside down. And that requires a deeper analysis of really what white means. And that's, again, part of the rationale for having written my book, because breaking down the difference between caste and the illusory reference of race, the spurious term of race. We're talking about a caste system that is based, like I said, in part on a pigmentocracy. What is your complexion? And then to some degree, too, what's your hair texture, right? You got good hair, it goes to the divisions again, right? People making crazy statements like, I saw this sister, man, she dark-skinned, but she's beautiful. How insane is that? She's dark-skinned, but she's beautiful. Or, yeah, I saw this brother, he got good hair. So what? Good hair? What? He keeps it clean? If that, no, straight, good hair. So divisions, all divisions that are affirming what I said earlier about the Brahmanization of the European phenotype, because they're saying this is the standard. We are the standard for beauty. So much so that curly hair is seen as ugly, tightly curled hair, if you will, seen as ugly. Dark complexions are seen as ugly. Really. In fact, maybe I should save this when we do the segment on Christianity. But even the whole discussion about the theology in Christianity, which tried to say that being of African ancestry was a curse.